It's important to have somebody of courage or who you think has courage, even one day more of it than you do. That is a very important thing. That is an important friendship. That is an important person to share with, to hear how are they doing it. Because no one has the answer to courage. You don't even know you've been courageous. When in the aftermath, it's like, oh, wow, I was. Why did I do that? But I think you don't even know how courageous you've been.
Welcome to The Courage Effect. I'm Suzanne Weller, and this is a show about growth and unleashing what's possible. You will hear inspiring stories about what courage looks like, how we navigate what's getting in our way, and the opportunities that surface when we choose courage over comfort. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. It's Suzanne. Welcome to The Courage Effect. My conversation today is quite a moving one. It is with Judy Greenfeld, who is a rabbi, cantor, lifelong entrepreneur, and author who bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and modern wellness. She really is empowering forward thinkers on their personal and professional evolutions. She's the founder of Naksham Minyan, a welcoming community for unaffiliated Jews seeking to rewrite their negative stories about religion. And as you'll hear in this show, she has just recently moved to Texas, and she is serving as the rabbi cantor at Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville. This is an interesting conversation because Judy doesn't fit into one specific mold. She really is this beautiful tapestry of various spiritual practices and Judaism, which she's blending together for her congregation and the larger people that she touches in her work. She is really finding fulfillment in watching families and individuals wake up to the relevant, powerful ancient teachings of Scripture, a lot of which they've previously taken for granted. So she sees herself as connecting them to the history of who they are. And her passion is teaching and seeing the light go on with beauty, meaning, and courage. Beyond her rabbinical duties, Judy's larger mission is to cultivate inclusive spaces where people of all backgrounds can come together, find support, and explore a path of self-discovery and shared purpose. You will hear in what she shares today so many beautiful experiences from her journey, in addition to her recent move to Texas with a brand new job and a brand new congregation. But she also touches on some of the challenges that she has overcome in her life, including her father's murder when she was just 16. She also talks about how she then turned away from Judaism following her father's death and where she's found strength and comfort in her faith. She talks about learning, unlearning, and relearning traditions, and really the importance of including and listening to various narratives, even painful ones. This conversation is one that really fills my heart, and it brings me some optimism in a world where there's a lot of negativity. I find that Judy really embraces the beauty in the things that we don't necessarily expect. And she's opening us all up to some of those things that maybe we're not paying enough attention to, or maybe we just haven't included in our larger repertoire of learning or spiritual practices. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Judy, it's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to The Courage Effect.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So as we were preparing for this conversation, you started talking about your recent move to Fort Worth, and a huge smile came across your face as you were talking about it. And I was thinking about, in my life, my moves have been some of my most courageous acts. So let's start with talking about your recent move.
Yeah, I live in Fort Worth right now, at least for the next 3 years. And I also have a new position as a senior rabbi at Congregation Beth Israel of Colleyville. And this all happened within the month of July. It was just this, I wanted to come out here. My other half is out here working as a cantor. And I thought I would come back and forth, which I was doing, but this opportunity came up, and I thought this sounds exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I think that that is the first thing that, if you want to talk about courage, which we do today, is that when you are on the right path, you have nothing but courage. When you know what you're doing is the right direction, and you have definitely an idea of what you want to do, you've got a goal in front of you, I believe that's when courage is kind of easy. And I know that I would have never been ready before this. Like it was the timing of this whole event was just right. So I am aware that it took courage for me to get to this point. And now, it's the moving. I took my whole life after 40 years of living in California and put them in trucks, and I'm here with them. And yeah, the courage is there. I don't have to work at it. I feel that I'm embodying that at this point in my life.
That's beautiful. And it's, as you said too, it's sort of the larger circumstances that have brought you to where you needed to be. And so there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go back. Let's go back to you. I mean, obviously 40 years in California, you've done quite a few things in your life. You've had a lot of different lives within the life that you've led so far. But I'd love to go back to you growing up. So talk to us a little bit about some of those early experiences.
I was always curious. I always thought deeply about things. However, I had a life-changing experience at age 16. My father was murdered in Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up in a suburb, youngest of 5 kids. Life was as it is in a suburb. And this was a shock. This was a shock for my whole family, my mother, as I said, I have 3 sisters and a brother. I just was with my mother, who celebrated her 95th birthday. And she's still in our childhood home. So, there's always these flashes, because now everyone has their children, have had children. It was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. But in thinking so much about this topic, I looked at every one of my sisters and my brother and my mother, and I thought, tragedy cultivated our courage and our ability to endure. They're clearly together. They are intertwined. And the courage and the stamina that one needs to break through to the other side was done by every member of my family in all their different ways. My mother, who became a grief counselor, was probably my greatest teacher, because she was in the field of psychology, and she turned the event around. And that is a Jewish quality too. That is an ancient, foundational piece of, as people have followed the Jewish religion, of survival. But it takes a lot of courage to want to survive, and the survival isn't always fun. It's right. And so there's a lot that comes along with that. But I think that courage was cultivated in me through having such a close network of friends also in Ohio, and watching my mother really shift, because she had a really tough time. I mean, for a long time, and I forgot about this, she couldn't go out of the house. She had agoraphobia. She had all these different fears and things that she, overcame. And when you have somebody who is leading the way, and this is for your listeners too, it's important to have somebody of courage, or who you think has courage, even one day more of it than you do. That is a very important thing. That is an important friendship. That is an important person to share with, to hear how are they doing it. Because no one has the answer to courage. You don't even know you've been courageous. When in the aftermath, it's like, oh, wow, I was. Why did I do that? But I think you don't even know how courageous you've been.
I have so much respect for, so much of what you just shared, but the point about who you're surrounding yourself with, and in those moments to make sure that, like somebody that has a day more of courage than ourselves to really model that behavior and grow it in us. I mean, encourage courage.
Yeah.
How fortunate for you to have the gift of your mom to do that for you.
Yeah, I really sat there and was so present in the moment. And sometimes, your head is all over the place, but I thought, and I said this out loud to my family, how wonderful is it that we're all here? And, knock on wood, everyone gets really superstitious, but we're healthy and that we've come to this moment and that we've had mom for 95 years. I mean, what a beautiful moment that we've all reached. We've had each other to lean on. And my family has been there in many, many other situations as well where I needed courage. And that goes, I could say that even standing up in front of a congregation and giving us my first sermon, or even thinking of myself as leader of a congregation, all of that took extreme courage that I could do it. And that's cultivated not just from the outer, but it's really inside. It has to be a decision inside of you, almost a mantra inside of you that says, yes, I can do it. I have the courage to do that.
Beautiful. And I'd love to hear more about your decision to not just embrace Judaism, but to really choose it as your life's work.
When that tragedy at 16 years old happened, I turned away from Judaism. I was very angry at God. I thought, why did this happen? This was a nice man. My family was a nice family. How could this possibly have happened? And why did God do this? And there's two things that I found out. That one, first of all, God doesn't do this to you. I had to really stretch and understand. There are many phases of what this higher being, higher energy is for you. And I realized that for a long time, when I did start to come back, God was courage. Like that godly energy that comforted me, built that strength. And that's what I lean on at the hardest time, because I don't know where else to go. And as I'm saying that, I'm even thinking about my divorce. When that happened, I have spiritual people around me who said, just imagine that you're going to sleep in the palm of God's hand. And I'm not one to go there, but I must tell you, that was so comforting and strength building. And it gave me the courage to move forward. And I didn't, because it really comes from not knowing where else to go. I feel like courage is the last house on the block because it's the only thing that's going to get you up and moving, right? It's like, oh my God, I have to go here. All right. I don't know what else to do but go forward. And honestly, it wasn't something that I'm going to be courageous.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And so for anybody who's feeling like, oh, please, what's the answer? It's sometimes you have to go there kicking and screaming.
And I feel that those are usually the most courageous times when you are kicking and screaming, because if it was easy, then it wouldn't be such a bold move.
I think of myself this time last year. And one of the things that I recommend so much, and this is what's beautiful about the ancient rhythm of the calendar in Judaism, and it's the ancient calendars were really embedded in nature. That has not changed. I mean, we honor the moon. It goes by a moon calendar. It's ancient. But there is this comforting sense of winter, spring, summer, and fall. That simple. And this is the time of year where we spend a month now. We just entered this new month that is framed in love, but it's a time of assessment. It's really having the courage to look at your life and look at what you think are maybe the bad points and the good points and all of that, and change a little bit. just be, it's just being willing. I've explained that prayer is that quest for being willing to do something. And sometimes asking for the willingness to be strong or to have courage, because I think they're together, they come hand in hand. It's something that you have to pray to be I had to pray to be willing to do. We are stronger than we think. In my family, in my congregation, I think I've built strength and courage because of the people who depend on me also. I don't give up because I don't want my children to give up. I want to model what it's like to walk through the hardest times of life. And in my divorce, I remember feeling the pain every day. And I said, I don't want to skip steps, because if I skip steps, I've got to do this again.
Yeah.
So let me sink into every one of the steps and let me have the courage to face any pain or where I was to blame or what this was about or what didn't work. And I think that's a very big part of why I can be here today is and move in this stage of my life. I'm not a youngster, and it takes hard work to adjust. So ever since I've been thinking about courage and the frame of that, and I realize it's complex. Mm-hmm. There's so much in that, and it's fascinating. It is trust in yourself. It is knowing the right thing, like having a set of values and weighing what you're doing on those values. One of the biggest fears that I had to overcome and have courage about was to stand up for myself and speak out. Many years of therapy after my divorce, I realized that I'd been the product of adult clergy sexual misconduct. And I didn't know what that was. And I didn't understand that it was really a misuse of power, because your clergy people or your doctors or your professionals, you're a professional as well, they have a lot of power over you. I didn't realize it was happening. And I'm smart, which was even worse. And when I began to realize it, I felt so ashamed. I didn't know what I would do. And I had to live with a secret. And during COVID, I felt like I can't live with secrets anymore, because I literally had feelings of like suicidal feelings, like I had nowhere else to go. I could never redo this. It would never get better. And I couldn't keep a lie. It was either me or him, right? And I had the courage to tell my story of what happened. And the Me Too movement women have been so courageous. And I'm not sure if they've had real justice. I think the voices were loud, and I think that it's been pushed down. I know for myself, I didn't do this as revenge or anything. I felt as a rabbi, I need to speak out for other women who this happens to. And they don't talk enough about adult clergy sexual misconduct, because that clergy person knows your vulnerability and you trust. So I'm still going through it. I've been I've been victimized again, and I have the courage to stand up to say, absolutely not now. And for anybody who's going through that and so afraid that it's going to destroy their life, you get to that point of it's either me or the secret. I don't live with any secrets today. It's such a freedom. I may not have seen justice on the other end, but the reason I did this was to free myself of any lies. Because when you have lies or things that you're covering up in your life, you don't have as much access to your courage, right? You don't have that access to your strongest self. And I don't live with that anymore. And I'm so grateful.
Mm. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that story with us. And I mean, what just keeps coming up for me is how, I mean, if something goes down, if the shit happens, like I want you in my court. You've been to
I'm
that
there.
last house on the block many times, and you've come out of it stronger as a result. So, I mean, brava, not that you actually want to be congratulated for that, but that those stories speak volumes.
Yes, they were very frightening times. And there's also something that comes along with those times where it's like that leap of faith, where you're not quite sure where you're going. You just know that you're not going to feel like you did before. And it's too uncomfortable to stay in the old. So you have to try it. And the synagogue that I started 18 years ago in Los Angeles was called the Nachshon Minyan Synagogue. Nachshon was a real person in the Bible. He was one of Moses's contemporaries, and supposedly, the Midrash says he was afraid of water. But he, at that moment that Moses was there, like praying for that sea to split, and the Hebrews had left slavery, and they were at the edge of that water there was nowhere to go. It was Nachshon ben Aminadav who started to go into the water, and because he had faith, and he was saying, I believe God. And when God saw him come forward, humanity come forward, God split the sea to show this bonding, and also this, we had to take that first step. And that's when the sea split. And so my congregation was called, in the idea of having courage. I started it. I was not a rabbi yet. I was a cantor, which you can start a synagogue when you're a cantor because it's a clergy. But I just did it to look for other people who wanted a modern, updated belief of these ancient scriptures that wasn't patriarchal, that wasn't exclusive, that included everyone who had the desire to look for their Jewish identity. And it flourished, but it started with 10 people and it flourished over 120. And that's a wonderful number for if you're the only cantor and rabbi. And even going to rabbinic school, I graduated after 4 years in the seminary, and my congregation didn't like any of the rabbis that I brought. And I never thought of myself as a rabbi. I only saw men as rabbis. I didn't see anyone before me. And so it's also that willingness to be a pioneer and not quite know what it's going to look like. And I think back, and it took so much courage for me to even ask the school if you could be both rabbi and cantor. And then to go through all those years and graduate and do another thesis and do all that work. I didn't realize it was courage that was pumping through my veins.
Mm. I love that we're giving you that reframe right now.
I do too. I love thinking of courage instead of what you're afraid of. So many times people say, well, I'm so afraid of this. And my question is, where do you think you have courage? Where have you had courage in your life? And coming from that stronger place is transformative.
Yeah, it's like I liken it to the dialogue around like strengths and weaknesses because it's just a matter of people talking about their weaknesses. It's like, well, how might your strengths actually be able to allow you to, like, I don't see them as weaknesses. I see them as opportunities. So, and how can you use your strength to do that as opposed to just focusing, because we know the negativity bias is there and that we tend to go down that path way too quickly. We're going to cut to a break. I would love to hear more about that journey, especially how you have had the courage to rewrite negative stories about religion with how you're weaving in traditional, new, many different forms of spirituality, if that sounds good to you, Judy.
Sounds wonderful.
All right, great. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. This is The Courage Effect. Stay tuned. Courage takes on many forms. I believe that one of the most courageous things that we can do is recognize when we need help and seek out support. Is something interfering with your happiness or keeping you from achieving your goals? If you're going through a hard time, possibly struggling with depression or anxiety, therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a very different way. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and accessible. It's an online platform where you can be matched with a professional therapist in as little as a few days just by filling out a few questions. I know from personal experience that finding a therapist and the right fit can be really difficult. With BetterHelp, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. For more information and to sign up to get matched with a therapist, go to BetterHelp, that's HELP.com/courage. Visiting this link both supports the show and gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Welcome back to The Courage Effect. This is Suzanne, and I am in conversation with Judy Greenfeld. So, Judy, we've been talking about how you have really embraced the Jewish religion in different ways over the course of your life, and how you've really started your own way of practicing. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that journey and how you have, as you said, really rewritten negative stories about religion for not just yourself, but for the communities that you're helping to cultivate.
Judaism is so ancient, and monotheism, which we are all rooted in, is so ancient. And those 10 commandments that were given to all of us to have a workable society, to try to create order out of chaos, is our groundwork, and that's been around forever. And through those thousands of years, I mean, it's 5,000 years that they've been in existence, I think that they are a people that shows courage to all of us. It's the greatest teacher to watch a civilization not die out and survive and thrive, to get very small, and they're tiny, and to, through their belief in their heart, through their faith, through their trust, have come back to life every time they've been challenged in that way. And those foundational beliefs, I think, are in all ancient religions. I do. I think all ancient religions, I don't know anything but monotheism. And I was just in Peru, and I did see, I guess it's pantheism. I met an Inca family, the last of the Inca families, who are so beautiful, and their beliefs are so beautiful because they're so connected to the earth. In a way, I did feel like there was a feeling of monotheism, although they are, the earth to them is God. Mm. So I feel that it's up to us to rewrite a lot of what we learned, because I think we learned badly. And I think religion over the years, and I love men, however, it was a patriarchal religion. And even in teaching what the ancient, Talmud writers said, and it's so outdated, thank goodness, in how it speaks, even the fact that we refer to God as He. And what I love about Judaism is it's open, and it has changes. I'm not sure if any of your listeners know this or you know this, but every 100 years, and even earlier than that, there is a rabbinic council of 3 different sects of Judaism that will make amendments to their constitution. The Constitution of the United States is based on the 10 commandments. So It's fascinating to me that something was written that long ago that we still uphold. And there are things that are out of date, like same-sex marriage. That was changed in the year 2000. And now with, there's so many more changes that are happening, and new types of identities that are being formed that Judaism has made room for, has changed their liturgy for. And I love that. That's somewhere that I can grow, because I thought it was just dogma. This is the way it is. And I was in a part of the movement that was very black and white. and you just feel bad. This time of year is the new year, and you just would be afraid because they were talking about your sins, and we all feel like we've done the worst things. So in order for me to wrap my brain around that, after looking at other religions, I love the philosophy of Buddhism. I love all of those different teachings. I have Christian friends. I love some of the teachings that they've shared with me. There's so much to learn from each other. Muslim teachers. I have learned so much from the healers that I've worked with, and in the sound healing community, which I've been a part of, and Reiki, and all of those things. But what we do share is this desire to contact that part of ourselves that I guess we call soul or spirit, that really wants to grow, that wants to understand its identity in order to live out their life purpose. Because what else are we here for? We really yearn to know who we are. And inside, we're good. I mean, the Jewish faith says every morning you wake up and you're pure. Every morning, your soul gets another chance. And this time of the year is Rosh Hashanah, the new year, and it's all about second chances and third chances and fourth chances, because it was set up to make your mistakes and also love yourself and have compassion for yourself. And it takes courage to just take a look at yourself and say, I don't like how I acted with my road rage today or whatever. I want to please, and your prayer is like, please don't ever let me do that. Or maybe realize that, you didn't ask somebody how they were doing today. In the Talmud, it says that if you don't ask somebody in a phone conversation how they're doing, you've stolen their time.
Wow.
Isn't that brilliant? That's so interesting. And even Lashon Hara, which is speaking badly and gossiping, if you brag about somebody, that's also considered the evil tongue or Lashon Hara or gossip, because it makes people feel badly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just gorgeous. So here is a people who have stood the test of time and endurance. Having the courage to endure is a big one. And to also face the things that aren't so beautiful about yourself, to face the fact that you're human. We're just human. We all just make mistakes. And I love this. I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, something about if you're afraid to do it, that's where you find courage. Like, do what you're afraid to do every day, one of those things. Because if you do that, you begin to cultivate courage. And I don't like the feeling at all. But once I'm on the other side of it, I realized I grew a little bit more.
It also sounds like for you, though, there's the keeping of secrets and the not looking inside, and that's more painful than taking the risk and stepping into courage.
I think that courage too is taking from every lesson, and this goes back to the time of the divorce where I wanted to really not skip steps, and I would look at it as, what have I learned today? Like I would see if I learned one thing about myself, and maybe that was finding out how sad I could be, or finding out what was meaningful to me, or what I was sorry for, or there's so many places in us to learn about and to have compassion for, because the more you feel that sense of courage in yourself, compassion in yourself, and courage is love. It really is. It's the willingness to really love who you are. And I think that's really what you've been about. I think that you have given people that, and it's very loving and very healing, and it creates wellness and function. So Yeah, I think courage goes across both shores in a way, because courage is also restraint.
Mm,
Courage is being willing to sometimes not say anything,
yeah.
do, or to hold back from what you normally do and what's habit. It takes a lot of courage to break habits. And I never thought about that before, but it's really true. Even to go down a different street than you've gone down all your life, or to take another route, that takes a lot of courage, and it also shifts you. Courage is that road that is going to shift you and really make you into who you are meant to be.
Yeah, I love that. And it's also, I mean, I also, I mean, the whole idea of the courage to listen, the courage to, I mean, and especially now we're in such a divisive world, and right now it's like on overdrive because of the upcoming election and otherwise, but people always coming into every conversation with an agenda and with an idea of what's going to be shared, and just, it doesn't always take courage to just cram your opinion down somebody else's throat. Like, your opinion is a valid thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that other people share, and you need to have the courage to give them the space to hear what they're bringing as well. And I think it's exactly as you said, there's that compassion that goes for it. It's self-compassion, but it's compassion for others, and grace. And I mean, the one word I heard you say a number of times is willingness, the willingness to look at ourselves and our religion and how are things working? Do we need to evolve? Where are the opportunities for us to potentially bend towards the light? And I think it takes a lot of courage to be open to that.
You made me think of something else too, that you're bending towards the light. And when you experience that courage, I think that you do get to the light, because all of a sudden you see all the things that you weren't looking at. Because courage is more like you're just going forward with blinders. And then all of a sudden, you get there and you can see so much clearer. And it also, you brought up something about encouragement. I
Yeah.
love that. I love, I thought that's what is another byproduct of courage, that you have the strength to give. And that's a big part of what I think religion was trying to teach us, the ancient religions that we need to rewrite, to remember the goodness, the positivity, the alternative routes that we get to walk down. Because you're right, with what's happening in our world, it's very, very negative. And just to even step out of that negativity takes courage. But also to hear, you're talking about the different stories, other narratives, because people want to just hear what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And to sit through someone's narrative and what they feel and their story. Listen, their story's right also. In Israel, it's very hard to listen to both sides, very painful. And they're both right and they're both wrong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is something that we all need to kind of put in our backpack and draw on more and more this year, especially because not only do you need it and to cultivate it, but the person sitting next to you does too.
Yes. And there's a lot of stuff in that backpack, and maybe we need to actually share the weight of it with other people and not just carry it all ourselves.
Yeah, very true. You can't be courageous on your own all the time. It does take people behind you, your troops behind you, your teams behind you. I can't say enough about the people who've been behind me and given me courage.
Yeah. Oh, well, this has been such a really wonderful conversation. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for allowing me to look at what are the traditions that I might want to look at again in my life, because I do feel like unlearning is one of the things that we all need to do, but relearning is another part of that. And knowing that it isn't always just one answer to what that's going to be, or one story. And I love what you're doing with your work, that you're bringing it to so many people in a new way, because I feel like that's what we need to do, is have the courage to create something new and not just throw out how it was done before, recognize what was the good and how can we actually blend that into what is the good moving forward. So thank you for all that you do, Judy.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. And you got me thinking even more, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for letting me learn with you.
Oh, such a pleasure. I will make sure that all of your information is in the show notes. Any final thoughts that you'd like to add?
It occurred to me as you were saying this, and maybe this is a statement that we all have heard too many times, but that courage to change. When you were saying listening and, yeah, you can't help but change when you have the courage to be a pioneer and to create something from nothing. And it's so exciting, and we're needing that in our world more than ever. So I just want to encourage you, anybody out there that's listening, to know that they make a difference, and we need them to cultivate and tell their stories, because we need more courage in this world.
I love that. What a perfect way to end. Thank you so much.
So much.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Stay courageous. The Courage Effect is brought to you by Weller Collaboration. We partner with individuals, teams, and organizations to enhance leadership, increase agility, and build effective teams. More information about us is available via the links in our show notes. Please spread the word about the Courage Effect. Rate and review your favorite episodes on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. Share with your colleagues, family, and anyone in your universe who might be inspired by a good dose of courage. If you have feedback or stories to share about the show, or would like to apply to be a guest, please contact us via our website. Benny Mathers is our producer. Dave Nelson composed our theme music. Alex Sandyforth is our administrative maven, and I'm your host, Suzanne Weller.